Hello, welcome to your Clevertouch board. I'm going to be your host, Ann Llewellyn, and we are here in the Groves Media Center. So I'm going to take you through just the basics of getting started with your board. First, the power button is on the side of your board. Click it and your Clevertouch board should turn on. Once your Clevertouch board is on, you can toggle between the board and your computer and your overhead projector. To do that, you can do it one of two ways. You can come over here to the side again and click the menu button and then click settings. This will bring up the general settings. Right now we're on the Android. Android meaning the board. If we want to switch it back, you'll notice the blue dots. The computer is hooked up to HDMI 1. I just click that and it'll be now connected to the computer. So anything that's showing on my computer screen will now show on the board. If I want to go back, I can also swipe up from the bottom and I'll get the same menu. So if I go back to the Android, I'm now back to the board. The board will be working wirelessly, so you can still reach the internet without having to be connected to your computer. So first off, you'll see these arrows on the side. Those arrows bring up the Cleverboard apps. The first application I'm going to talk about is called the Note. If you click that, for the first time it'll come up with this beautiful shade of green. This is essentially your whiteboard. If you would like to change it and actually make it a whiteboard, what you can do is over here in the right hand corner, or left, over here, you'll click this icon and you'll click background. That way you can change the background to any color you'd like. I'll make it a whiteboard, and then that will be your background color from here on out. Once you've chosen your background color, you have the tools at the bottom. So if I want to use the pencil tool, I can change the color. You can draw. Once you've done that, there's 20 points of touch. So you can have multiple students on the board at the same time. This tool right here will clear the board for you. This allows you to draw shapes. So you can have circles, triangles, different lines. If I were to draw these two and I would want to move them, one thing you can do is if you click the arrow, select the two, I can then move them or make them smaller or larger across the board. By highlighting it, by just drawing a line through it, I can delete it or move it by itself without it being connected. So I'm going to clear those. Next thing under the pencil is if you want to use a paintbrush, you have that option as well. You can change the thickness and the color. Now the nice thing about the Notes app is it gives you unlimited whiteboard space. So you can keep adding pages to this Notes book. So over here, it'll show you that I'm on page 1. If I want to add a next page, I just click the arrow. I click the plus sign, and now I'm on the second page. So if I want to do some work on this page, my work on my first page is still there. So you can do as many as you need, and then you can save this note. You can email the note by coming back over here to this again. You can save it to a file. You can export it as an image, a PDF, or you can send it to your email account. I'm going to just click Save, and what it's done is it's pulled up the folders that are on the board. Okay, I will go through creating folders in the next section. However, these are the folders that have already been created. I can choose where I want to save it. So let's say I save it in Notes. I'll click OK, and then I can rename it. I'm just going to leave it this for now. I'm going to click OK. Now it's been saved to my Notes folder. I can go back to it, open it, or create a brand new note. Come back here. I'm going to go Home. And next up is Files. So Files, like you saw before, is all the folders that are located on the board. So we saved our Notes work in the Notes folder. And as you can see, here it is. I can open it up and I can edit it or refer back to it. If you ever get lost, click the little arrow and click the Home button. With Files, you can create your own folders. So these are the folders that you probably will see when the board arrives. To add a folder, you're going to come down here to the plus sign. You click that and you can name your folder. So I'll say Trash Me and OK. So now I have the folder there. You can create as many folders as you need to, and you can delete them. If I wanted to rename a folder, so let's say I don't want the Mark folder anymore, I would want it to call it Anne. I can click this arrow with the A, and that will allow me to rename it. So we'll go back. Another way that you can save is through a flash drive. If you have a flash drive, what you can do is you can plug your flash drive in to the side of the board. Okay. Once it's plugged in, you will see it show up under Storage. So there is the Lexar is the flash drive I just plugged in. So anything I want to save, I have the option of saving it to storage on the board or my flash drive, which I can travel with or take home or whatnot. So you do have those options. Or you can email it to yourself. Next up is the browser, and that's essentially just reaching the internet. So it came up to the Google page. You can search the internet. I'm going to search for puppies. All I did was type it in here into the search box. Click search. And I'm going to go to images. I can scroll through the images. And let's say I like this one. And the nice thing about this is if I go back to my menu from the side, this icon right here looks like a pencil. I can annotate over anything. So I can click the pencil button and I can now annotate over the image. This again will clear it. I can highlight, so if there was text and I wanted to highlight, I could do that as well. And the really nice thing about this is once I'm done annotating, if I want to save this, I click the Save button, and it gives me the option to save it to any of these folders. I'm going to cancel it, and then I'm going to close this. Okay. Once I'm done with this page, I can go back. This arrow, curved arrow, will take you to the last page or the last screen. This again will take you home. And this button looks like two tiles in front of each other, shows you all the applications you have open. So if you are lost and you knew you had an application open, you can click that. It will tile the applications and you can get rid of them by clicking the X or just sliding them off the page. I'm going to go back to the arrow, and I'm going to go, actually I'm going to stick with this page. So I'm going to go back to the cute little pug, click this, and this button down here looks like a pair of scissors. This is nice because it will give you the option to snip part of your screen. So if I just wanted this part of the image, I can change the size and the area. If I wanted the entire thing, I would click this button over here. That's going to take a screenshot of the entire board, whatever's on the board at that moment. I'm just going to do this part. There are two options. Again, you can save to a folder or to your flash drive, or this that looks like a little easel, this will send it directly to the Note app. So if I click this, it is now sending it to the Note app, where I can go in and I can annotate, or I can add pages, I can make it smaller, oops, or draw over it. Click the hand tool, I can make it smaller, move it over here, do whatever I need to do, and I can save it in case there was a student who missed that lesson, bring that back up the next day. So I'm in Notes. Again, I'm going to go back, home. That was the browser. So we have the Notes, which is essentially a whiteboard, unlimited space, files where you're saving things, browser, going to the internet, and now there's the Cleverstore. The Cleverstore is where all the applications that you can download to the board are located. The beautiful thing about the Cleverstore is all the applications are education-based. They've been stripped of all their advertisements, and they've been recalibrated so that when they show on this enormous screen, they're not going to be all pixelated. So you can scroll through and look at the different apps, and if there's one that you like, you can click on it. It gives you a little description, gives you some screenshots, and if it's something you think you're interested in, come over here, free download, and then now it's downloading it to the board. Once you've downloaded it, click install. It's going to be there all the time. You do not have to reinstall it each time you use the board. So now that the app is stored or installed, I'm going to click done. And I'm going to go again to home. And that app was just downloaded to this apps section. So when I click here, these are the ones that are automatically downloaded to your board. But if I scroll over, Lecture Notes has now been added. Any app you download will then be placed in your apps section. One last thing is, if you're familiar with the iPhone or the iPad, you can organize your apps into folders. To do so, you'll click on an app and you'll drag it until it's on top of the app you want it to be with. You'll drop it in, and now there's a folder and those two apps are there. You can then click and drag any other apps you want to add. That's a nice feature if you have certain math apps you want to keep together, or first hour, I just want you to use these apps, something like that. Way to keep it organized once there's a lot of applications downloaded. Now that you've created a folder, you're probably going to want to rename it. You click on the folder, and then you click on the name. You can now rename your folder. So maybe this was my math apps. And I hit enter, and now that folder has been renamed. One thing you probably have already noticed is that when you need to type something, so let's go to the browser, the keyboard pops up. However, the keyboard is very large. You can move the keyboard. However, I highly suggest that if you have to go to any place where you have to enter your password, to do it either before the kids come or do it on the computer, because it is pretty obvious what you're typing in. So just a word of caution. Active, that is exact same icon as we saw earlier. It just shows you your active screens. And again, you can close by pulling or Xing out. Okay. So screen lock we're going to avoid. That locks your screen, but it has the special code. So as for now, you're just going to avoid the whole locking of the screen. Apps we already did, and favorites. If there are applications that you use often, or you want to create a section just for the students, and so they don't have to sift through all the applications, you can add them to your favorites. So if I click the plus sign, it brings up all my applications that have been downloaded to the board. If I use this one, it is now added to my favorites section. So if I close this, it'll still be in my apps. Oops, it'll still be in my apps, but now it's also listed in my favorites. If I go to apps, I was in the right place. I can scroll through, and settings is embedded in here. So if I click on that, that'll bring up all these options of if the display is too bright, not bright enough, if you need to check if you're connected to the Wi-Fi, and that's it. So I'm going to go back, and if you would like to change the volume on the board, because the speakers are embedded in the board, there are two ways. One is you can swipe up again from the bottom, change the volume, change the brightness. If not, because sometimes the swiping is a little finicky, you can come over to the side of the board, and right underneath the power button is a menu button. When you click the menu button, settings comes up, the volume comes up, and home comes up. Oop, we are home. Okay. If I click settings, I don't have to swipe up, and I can easily change to the computer if I need to. At the end of the day, if you're going to shut your board down, all you need to do is click the power button and hold, and a message will come up and tell you that it's going to be shutting down in a certain amount of time. We're just going to look at a couple of the accessories that come with the board. The first accessory is the pen. If you prefer to use the pen versus using your hand or your finger, you can use this. It doesn't need to be calibrated, and it's magnetic, so you can stick it to the back of the board. You also have a remote that comes with your Clevertouch board. The remote you can change the volume up and down. You can mute it. So as you see over there, I've already muted it. I can unmute it. However, if you're using the remote, you have to be very careful that you're pointing it to the bottom right-hand corner where you see that little blue light. Anywhere else, it's not going to connect. So if right now I have the board connected to my computer. If I want to go back and check my email or do something on the computer, but I want to leave what they're looking at up, I can freeze the screen. To do so, on your remote, there's a blue button. You're going to click the blue button and make sure you're aiming it to the right-hand side, bottom corner. And when you do that, when you click it, a small menu will appear. That means it is frozen. So if I come back to the computer and I do something, they're not going to be able to see anything on my screen because this is now frozen. As long as that menu is up there, that screen is frozen. To unfreeze it, again, the blue button, aim it towards the bottom right-hand corner, click, and you'll now see the cursors moving, so it's back to a live screen. One last accessory that comes with the board is a microfiber cloth. That is the only thing you want to use to clean the board. You do not want to use any chemicals whatsoever. If for some reason a student comes back from lunch and has Cheeto fingers and you get something on the board that you need to get off, the Clevertouch does recommend that you use warm dish soap on the provided cloth, and that's it. And that should help get it off. Warm water and the cloth is basically all you're going to want to use on your board.